Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. At AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson with you. Peter Morici, University of Maryland economist, is on the line. Peter, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
So, I know you're in College Park, but there's been a lot of drama recently around here with what's going on in Charlottesville at the University of Virginia, where the school president was forced to resign. But there's going to be a big meeting tomorrow where she may be reinstated, talking about Teresa Sullivan. There's a lot of stuff that's going on here, but you wrote a piece that said that the university was right, or the Board of Visitors, the Board of Trustees, was right in ousting Teresa Sullivan. Why? Why do you feel that way?
What's going on in Virginia crystallizes the challenges facing elite institutions and higher education generally. They've become too darn expensive, and the better institutions like Maryland and Virginia, and indeed the very best like Virginia and the Ivies, have become too inaccessible. I mean, you have students with 3.8, 3.85 GPAs at great high schools that can't get in because they have become too limited in terms of space. And, of course, there's all those legacies that go to dim-witted graduates, dim-witted high school graduates
right,
who happen to be the children of someone who went in the past, and developmental bids and athletes and all the rest of that business. The president at UVA, like many university presidents, is not addressing those challenges. Rather, it's doing Barack Obama, governing from the rear, letting the faculty set the agenda. And you'll all know that the faculty, it's a sinecure. We're like the folks who ran France before the revolution.
So what you're saying is that you need to allow more kids into the University of Virginia, and you need to look at it from an economic standpoint that way, or a fairness sample? I mean, I'm not quite sure what you're saying here.
Well, there are things we could do with electronic education, the internet and so forth, technology. The universities have become woefully inefficient, bloated cost centers and so forth. And simply looking at the president's strategy memo provided to the board at the University of Virginia in May, Sullivan doesn't address these challenges. It really is business as usual. There was nothing new or novel, and she's been told by the chairman of the board there that she needs to address these challenges. The universities also need to reallocate resources. You know, we just as we don't do Phoenician studies anymore, it's the Phoenician language anymore. You know, there are centers and disciplines that really we no longer can afford to participate in, and she just doesn't want to reallocate resources.
All right, but it sounds like the status quo, which, as you know, is a very powerful thing.
I'm losing your voice.
You're losing my voice?
You speak up.
I'm sorry you're having trouble. Can you hear me now?
Just speak up. Go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, the status quo, which is a situation that is very hard to change, may remain in place, it seems like. It's going to be hard to change the status quo because she may well be reinstated.
Well, I think she will be reinstated. That's why they're having the meeting on Tuesday. Essentially, the board is backing down in an episode that looks like Wild in the Streets. I mean, the university faculty folding its arms with the support of the students and saying it won't acknowledge a new president, that's absolutely nonsense. In a lot of ways, this is the reverse of what happened to Larry Summers. Larry Summers wanted to address some fundamental issues in higher education at Harvard. And the faculty simply wouldn't support him. They said, you know, we don't need a corporate executive coming out here, and you can't run a university like a business, and on and on and on. Those are just obfuscating remarks that faculty always make. I mean, faculty greet change the way owls do sunlight. And so they got him fired. Now, essentially, what they're going to do at Virginia is fire the chairman of the Board of Visitors. That chairman will likely have to leave over this episode, and it is a tragedy for the people of Virginia. The University of Virginia is basically running a private institution with public money. It's behaving as if it's not accountable to the people of Virginia, who have long been dissatisfied with that institution. And so we're not going to make a whole lot of progress.
All right. Obamacare may go to the Supreme Court, may get the hearing from the Supreme Court, the decision from the Supreme Court maybe today or on Thursday. Does this have any economic impact if it is determined that it is unconstitutional?
Well, the question is, what will be unconstitutional? If only the individual mandate is unconstitutional, the provisions of Obamacare can go forward successfully. That has been demonstrated in Maryland because their businesses are required, as would be the case with Obamacare, to take all comers and to charge the same rate regardless of pre-existing conditions. It just makes health care a little bit more expensive. My feeling is that this will not address the basic issues in American healthcare, and that we are as twice as expensive as the Germans. It costs about $8,000 a person in the United States, $4,000 in Germany. They have everybody covered, and healthcare is better in Germany.
All right, so basically it'll be status quo then.
Well, it'll be not quite status quo, because you'll have the kinds of reforms that we have in Maryland, and it'll be even more expensive. For example, the Medicare mandate to the states will be dramatically increased, and this will create even more budgetary problems in the states. Going back to the university, one of the reasons that university funding has been falling from states is that the Medicare budget is basically the monster that ate Toledo.
Yeah.
It's constantly taking more and more of the budget. It's the analog to mass transit at the county level.
Well, on that level, a friend of mine works in a hospital, and they were told, because the amount of money coming in from Medicare from the state is shrinking, that there's a hiring freeze at the hospital now.
Wow.
Well, they're all running out of money simply because health care is out of control. At every level, there's a crisis, except the federal level, which plans to dramatically raise our taxes through what appear to be marginal provisions. But when you add them all up, they get to be pretty large.
Yeah.
And so my feeling is we're going to be spending a great deal more on health care going forward, with or without Obamacare. But with Obamacare, it's going to be worse. Even if the whole thing gets struck down, that means we continue to go as we have been going, which is very badly. And I have to tell you, the Republicans simply don't have an alternative. Mr. Romney hasn't proposed anything that would fundamentally change the system, and I don't think that there is going to be any real change, because the Republicans find it an anathema to do the kinds of things the Germans do, like regulate the price of drugs based on their efficacy. If a new prescription drug comes along, they will only permit a price increase relative to the additional benefits. The Republicans refuse to acknowledge the free market doesn't work in healthcare. Heck, if it worked, why are we paying so much more than in a regulated market, which is not supposed to work in Germany?
All right, last question, the EU and Spain. Spain seems to be the big problem, your sense.
Well, Rome had Nero. He fiddled while Rome burned. Mm-hmm. It appears as though Europe has got 17 Neros, one for each Eurozone country. Real change over there is not going to happen. The Nero orchestra will really not provide the kinds of reforms that are necessary to save the currency. But in the short term, the Band-Aids and tourniquets necessary to keep it going will suffocate the European economy.
Wow.
All right, Peter. Always good to have you on. Thanks very much. We appreciate